Hi guys, Virginia here, and I'm back with another 12 by 12 process video for you today, and this one's for the SpiegelMom Scraps design team, and I am honing in on the Rainbow Bright sequin mix. It's packed full of a bunch of tiny little rainbow coloured stars and some little wood veneer rainbows, and I just couldn't go past it. I've been very much in a rainbow mood lately, so I'm continuing with that, and I'm going to show you how to make some little kind of DIY epoxy flare with sequins inside. So I've got a heart punch. I think it's about an inch in size, and I'm just going through. I've used some white cardstock and I've cut a bunch of white hearts, and I'm going through the Paige Evans Whimsical collection and picking just basically solid colours in rainbow, I guess. And what I'm going to do is kind of layer up those hearts. Now when you put to make these DIY epoxy hearts, when you use glossy accents on them, if it's got a really thin base, they tend to want to curl up. So this is the reason for me doing layers of cardstock under these. So what you can see me doing is I'm just using my fine liner bottle with Scotch tacky glue and just layering up 4 of those white cardstock hearts first. And this gives a nice solid base, so then when I do put the glossy accents on top and it dries, it doesn't want to curl up, it stays nice and flat, if you get what I mean. Okay, so I'm just going to add my final layer, which is the pattern paper. So there's 5 layers all together, and I'm going to zoom in, and all I'm going to do is basically put a sprinkling of those little tiny stars on top of the heart, and I'm doing a fairly decent pile. There's some kind of layered on top of each other, but that's okay. Then I'm going to grab my glossy accents. I love glossy accents. It's so fun to make stuff with it, and what I'm doing is basically putting a big blob of it on the center and then working a little bit more out to the side, and then I'm going to use the nozzle of the glossy accents bottle just to pull it to the edge of the heart. Don't pull it over the edge, just to the edge, and it will settle nice and flat and shouldn't go over the edge. So yeah, so there we go, they're all done. They're nice and dry. I've only got one layer, but I did notice that with just the one layer of glossy accents, because I piled those stars quite high, when it settled down and dried, it was quite bumpy on the top. So I do go later on, once I've finished the layout, I actually put another layer of glossy accents on top, and it made them beautifully round and flat, and you wouldn't even notice that there was 2 layers on there because it dries so nice and clear. Another little tip for those little epoxy hearts is if there's any little air bubbles in it, when you've just poured it, get a really sharp point needle or pin or whatever, and just pop the little bubbles before it starts to form that skin, and then you get rid of any little bubbles on it, and they're nice and smooth. Okay, so while I was rambling through all of that, I went through the 12 by 12 papers, and because I wasn't sure where I was going to go with this, and I came across the frame pattern paper, and all I've done is pretty much fussy cut a bunch of the frames out. I've cut around the outside, and then I've cut the little images out from the inside, and I decided they would be a great way to feature those hearts, and I've cut pretty much one of each colour, and I continued flicking through the 12 by 12 papers and came across this other frame paper which just about fit my photos in. So I'm going to use them, and I'm going to cut around the edge, cut out the inside, the same as those other frames, and then I'm going to mount them on top of my photos, and that's going to be a way to kind of include my photos into the design of the layout if they've got a frame. It also helps to make them stand out from the layout because they're a different sized frame. If you get where I'm going. Okay, so I'm just adding those frames, so I'll cut them out onto my photos with a little bit of tape. And I'm only doing 2 sides because of the way I'm having to position it, and the tape would be kind of wasted as the photo isn't there to stick to. Okay, so that's all done. You can see me thinking, what am I going to do to adhere that down? So I just pop a little double-sided tape on the corner just to make sure it sticks. Okay, I'm going to tidy up a little bit. And now I can start working on the layout. So I had gone through the papers and pulled out some options. I like the idea of that blue, and as you can see I placed them all on there, but it just wasn't working. So I went for this white, and it's got grey dots with some little confetti rainbow hearts on it, which I thought was perfect. So yeah, so that's what I end up going with. So now I'm going to start to basically design the layout. I have layered those two photos on top of each other, and I've popped them up on some adhesive foam, and now I'm going to set about distributing those frames around the layout in a rainbow order, basically. And I realised quite quickly that I have too many frames to kind of fit them nicely, I guess, just in a straight line. So I'm trying to shuffle them out, excuse me, to make them all fit, but I end up having to move them onto a bit of a curve, and that gives me an idea to basically do a bit of a moon shape around that layout, and I quite like that. So that's given a nice flow around the page. Okay, so I'm going to start adding my little DIY epoxy hearts back onto the layout, and of course I'm popping them in each of the similar coloured frames. So adding my teal, my blue and my purple down the bottom, and I quite like that. Okay, I'm thinking, is this okay? Yep, I can't find my glue. Now I found it. Okay, so I'm going to glue those frames down. A couple of them I'm going to prop up on adhesive foam just to give a bit of dimension and bring a bit of interest to all those frames. I love dimension on my layouts. And so I'm going to do this red one with glue, and then the pink one I'm going to pop up on some foam tape. So I'm just going to do 4 layers. I don't make you watch me adhere all the frames down. It's a pretty simple process. Peel off the backing and tuck that back into my photo. There we go. So I'm just going to put those hearts back in place once I've glued those frames down. Just finding a nice position for them where they are quite sporadic and evenly placed amongst the layout. Okay, so now I can start embellishing. I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go. I didn't want to overload it. I wanted those stars to still be the feature. And I thought about cutting out some of the little images that were inside the frames. And I did cut out a purple flower and I placed it down in that purple frame. But I do eventually end up taking it off because it just wasn't quite working for me. I'm adding little bits. I'm looking for pieces basically of a specific colour to go in each of those frames. So I go in the direction of hearts. I found all the hearts. There's a little butterfly as well. And I'm just placing them in each of those frames. The photos, I haven't mentioned what they are. There's my daughter Edison. I generally scrapbook her. And our dog Charlie. Now they have a love of bubbles. Edison likes to blow them and Charlie likes to eat them. She is very much, as soon as Edison starts playing with her bubbles, Charlie has to destroy them. So I think I've documented this before, but it's so fun because it's something that they do really frequently together, and it's really funny to watch. But it does get to a point, you'll see in the bottom photo, where Charlie gets way too excited and starts trying to pop them before Edison even gets a chance to blow them. So that's kind of about the point where we say, okay, Eddie, you've got to put the bubbles away. And we're also a little bit concerned that Charlie may get a bit sick from eating all the bubble solution. So yeah, but it's fun to watch them because Edison thinks it's hilarious and the dog just has a field day chasing bubbles. So yeah, so that's what I'm going with for the layout. And the story I'm trying to convey is, I guess, the floating of the bubbles and how pretty, and they catch the light. They will go all rainbow. I'm working that rainbow in. And yeah, I just want a really nice, airy, light layout. Okay, so while I was talking about all of that, I fiddled around with embellishments and I've come to the conclusion that I wanted to just keep it light, and I'm just going to add a few flowers of similar colours. I'm also going to add that little fox in, just because I think it looks eerily similar to our dog. She's rather fluffy, so that's going on there. And I've popped that foiled ampersand on there, and that actually comes in handy and kind of serves as my title later on, but I do get there. Okay, so I'm just trying to tuck these flowers in. I want them to be a bit more at one with the layout. So I do trim a few of them off so that they fit nicely within those frames. And I'm just going through the sticker sheet for this collection. And I decided to bring in some of the words. They're nice. Some of them are of solid colour, so they coordinate well. with my tone on tone embellishing. So I'm pulling out the bits, ones that I think work. So we've got chasing butterflies. They're not really chasing butterflies, but there wasn't one that said chasing bubbles. We've got best friends, better together, happy. This little yellow one says playful. I'm going to tuck that in, and I'm just tucking them on those straight lines amongst the frames that you can see. So I've got a purple one going on here that I'm just trying to fit in nicely. It says make time for joy, and a little green ampersand that I try to find a home for, but I do put it back, but it does come back onto the layout. And this is what I was talking about before, those ampersands come in and form part of my title. So it's basically chasing butterflies and best friends and happy and playful and all of that kind of stuff. But it was a great way to use all of the ampersands that are in this collection. Okay, some more little word stickers. And now I'm going through the chipboard stickers, and I found a little light pink Polaroid frame, so I stuck it up there on that photo, but I do eventually take it off. It was distracting from the photos. I'm bringing in some more ampersands. I've got a pink chipboard one at the top, a green one on that photo, which I do end up putting in the centre of the two photos, and that's kind of combining the two of them. And I'm just hunting for pieces that I think will work with the story, the design, and the colours. Go through the sticker sheet now. We've got some hearts. We're going to add to that heart theme. Just continuing to look through all the bits and pieces. Got some puffy stickers. We'll add a butterfly up the top in that pink section. And a little green banner. I have struggled to use these, but I like the idea of it hanging in between these green frames. So I'm just going to pop that up there. And a little pink word puffy sticker that goes up the top there. So I'm going to go through the rub-ons, and I've got some green, so these add as nice little subtle touches. Just scattering that green, I guess it's like a faux zigzag stitch. And of course I've got another pack. I'm going to cut off some bits off there. So we've got a little yellow flower, which I'm going to tuck under this yellowy orange heart and point it towards that green, so that it's still very much tone on tone. We're going to cut out some butterflies. So we've got a pink one at the top here, and a green one down the bottom, just to kind of continue that idea of floating and stuff. So there we go. I'm moving that ampersand, and that chipboard frame comes off. And I want to add some other little details, so some butterflies from the epoxy stickers, just a few. I don't really want to overwhelm the layout. And that reminded me that I wanted to use the sparkly effervescence mix as well. These are gorgeous. They're like little clear droplets, and they're perfect to kind of mimic bubbles on my layout. Okay, so now I can start gluing everything down pretty much. It's a rather simple process. I don't make you watch it all. Those things that need to be supported under foam, I am adding some adhesive foam squares underneath them, as you saw there. And that's all done. Glue behind everything, and I'm going to add my little sparkly effervescence mix around the page, just for the final touch. So I'm just scattering them around quite sporadically. And all I need to do is pop a little tiny dab of glue underneath them. It looks white now, but when it dries clear, and they look beautiful, which you'll see in the still shots in the end. So after that, that's pretty much it for my layout. I hope you enjoyed the process and you're inspired to give these little DIY embellishments a go. And don't forget, if you use the code Virginia15 in the SpiegelMom Scraps, you'll get 15% off your purchase. But until next time, bye guys.